if you listen to this on recording, it still works. So that's amazing to me.
Yeah. I actually do a process when I do energy work on recordings like this that allows the energetics to stay active. And they actually stay active for forever. And you don't have to believe that. It happens to be true. But here's how you can actually have an experience of that being true. You can come back to this on replay and do the process again on different issues even, and you'll still get major benefit like you will in the work we're about to do. So it's there for you, and one of my large goals this time around is to help lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people and animals. So this is one of the ways that makes me happy. You can return to this and use it for whatever current gunk or schmutz you have up and running.
Awesome. That's so cool.
The other one caveat I wanted to just throw out is if you're listening to this while you're driving, please don't do the energetic processes, because our aim is we want you healed up, not put in any kind of distracted state. So save the processes until later when you're safe and sound.
Perfect. Thank you for saying that.
Sure. So let's do a process, and we're going to start with something. And Kristen, I think that idea you have of, you talked about not really knowing even what your gunk is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get lost in that for that very reason. They're not sure what exactly to focus on. So let's do this. I'd like everybody who's listening just to pick one piece of gunk in one specific area of your life that's in the way of you manifesting. So what that doesn't mean is that doesn't mean you list the 15 things you're working on currently. Because the truth of the matter is we all want to do that. But the truth of the matter is if you do one thoroughly, you'll actually make faster progress than trying to do 15 all at once. That's the truth of it.
Okay.
So you want to pick something that really feels like it's in your way. And let's split this so that we can include as many people as possible. For many of our listeners, they know what's in the way, like I can't find a job, or I can't get that promotion, or this goal that I'm going after just doesn't seem to be coming. Whatever it is that is specific, work on that. For those of you who are not sure, what I'm going to have you do is focus on the idea of that gunk. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but using the analogy we just had, it'll work just as well, which may surprise you. So here's how we'll do it. Before we start, I'm a big fan of using the 0 to 10 scale. We're going to just rate your level of perceived stuckness on the scale so we can check it afterwards and you can notice if there's a difference. 10 is it's the worst imaginable. It's like cement, it's so stuck. 0 is it's gone and it's not a problem anymore. And my suggestion is that you pick something that rates for yourself over a 5. And the reason for that is so that you can really notice what changes as we do this, because you'll notice a change. So let's give everybody just a second to pull up one piece of specific gunk that they know, or if you're not sure, you can just pull up the gunk symbol, I guess we'll call it. And here's what's going to happen. In the next probably just a minute or so, I'm going to do some crazy-sounding mumbling. And while I do that, your job is just to keep your attention on your own perceived stuckness or discomfort about it. We'll do that, and we'll come back and see what changes. All right? So let's have everybody pull up the stuff they're working on, and here we go. Okay, you can bring your attention back and just take a minute to reorient yourself. And Kristen, can I lean on you as a guinea pig?
I was just going to go, ooh, call on me.
Yay! So here's what's important. We don't want your content. It's none of our business anyway. But what number did you start at?
I started at an 8.
Good. You picked a nice juicy one.
Yeah.
And where is it right now?
It's silly. I can think about it, but I have actually no emotional attachment to it. So I would say like a 2 or a 1.
Excellent. So I want to say a couple of things about that.
Okay.
That's you, and we're thrilled for you.
Right.
And you're going to be very similar to a vast majority of people on the call, because I've done this an awfully long time. And I kind of know the numbers and the percentages. But not for everybody. Some folks on the call will only have gone down a little, and some folks will have the perception that nothing's changed. And here's the quirky sounding thing that initially won't make any sense. That's fine. Truly, when we do this work, every energetic system, every person and animal is different. So your internal perception of how fast things drop and change is going to be a little different. So I'm going to do one more follow-up round for this, just to make sure for the folks that are lagging a little bit that we get them up to speed, because we want everybody on the happy bus, basically. The other thing to know is that when this starts, in the energetic world, it starts a collapse. It starts a gentle implosion so that it collapses in on itself, meaning the problem. So over the coming days and weeks, and sometimes even months, the foundation of the problem actually will collapse in on itself, and the big poof noise will be heard where it becomes no longer a problem. So that's exciting news, and you don't have to believe any of that. I know people who still don't believe it. I have some clients who are harder core skeptics than I am, and they go, I don't believe anything you do, but I want to come back. It's like, yeah, okay, great. So let's do one more round. This time, the round is going to be silent. I'll be doing some different work. And if you're already at a 0, just listen to the work anyway. If you're at a 1 or a 2, just keep your focus on the same thing. If you're higher than that, keep your focus on whatever it is you were working on, because we're working on the same thing. I'll go silent for just about 30 seconds or so, and I'll let you know when we're back. Here we go. And there we go. You can bring your attention back once again. And Kristen, what did that round do for you?
I would say it definitely went down to a 1. I wouldn't say I'm at a 0, but it definitely went down to a 1.
Great. Good.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things folks can do. One of them is to come back and listen to the replay and to take whatever number you're left with and run it through once or twice more, an investment of a whole couple of minutes, and you'll be done with that problem. And then the other thing for the keeners out there, folks like myself who want to get the maximum bang for their buck, is you can actually come back to the replay and use all the energetics we'll do on this call for any issue you want. So you can really maximize your use of the fact that the energetics are embedded.
So cool. I love it because it's so fast, too. I was like, oh,
yes,
it's over. What I found happening, and you can sort of give me your thoughts on this, especially during the first one, it's almost like I was trying to hold on to it, but I was having trouble even holding on to it.
That's very common, and that's great. One of the, either fast or slow, the image I frequently get, probably because I watch too many cartoons, is when you're blowing up a balloon and you accidentally let it go and it goes all around the room. That's sort of it's not a technical image of how the energy works, but it amuses me. That's frequently the sensation of, oh, well, it just sort of let go and flopped around and now we don't care about it anymore.
Right. I love that. And what a great visual for us to have. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so let me ask you this. Does this work on, like, if we have serious trauma or serious negative memories that have, like, they are significant, does it work on this as well?
I'm so glad you asked. My practice is based around almost exclusively working on that stuff. Because that stuff, that darkness, that trauma work, that serious stuff is frequently the cause for what's going on the surface, including things like physical pain. So one of the reasons I tell people to go try everything else first and then come work with me is because I'm a fan of, there's beautiful work in the world today, and lots of it, thank heavens. In the last 20 years in my experience, there's been an explosion of fabulous work. Mm. So if X, Y, and Z fixes your problem, great. Then it was, usually a surface problem. The stuff that persists, that will only get 50% better or 80% better, and then no matter what you do, you can't get the rest of the way, that's my place in the world. My practice is built around that very thing, because it's been my experience that it's almost always, almost without exception, undealt with emotions that are locking those problems in place. And that's the key to the rest of the way out. Mm. So when you take the energetic work that I do and focus it on the darkness and focus it on those suppressed emotional states, not only do you get those things to collapse very quickly, but there's often a big surge of all that pent-up energy that was tied up for so long with a problem. All of that energy becomes available to you again. So you notice not only an improvement on what you're working on, but there's this nice overflow improvement in all areas of your life. So a lot of allied things tend to get better as well.
Well, that makes sense, because you're clearing your gunk. I mean, so it makes sense that affects, that's how exciting is that? That's amazing. So let me ask you this. Is this something that, are there just certain people that have the gift and the talent to do this, or is it something that we all have this within us? Give me an idea about that.
It's a great question. I'll tell you, the truth of the matter is everyone who can fog a mirror has access to all of this. And I also wish in the same breath that there had been some big divine da-da-da-da that happened where there was no work involved for me to figure all of this out. But that's not the case. It comes with a great deal of slogging work. And the thing that I have a facility with is paying attention to the structure of what's happening. That's really my particular, I don't even think it's a gift. I just think I'm fairly good at it. All of the energetics and all of the energetic world is accessible to anyone. So the folks that are meditators or spend time with animals or out in nature, they already know things, if they'll pay attention, that many of us don't have access to or don't think we have access to because we're just so busy. Mm. So one of the tricks is slowing down. Another trick is being quiet, and that's very challenging for some folks. But like anything, with some practice, it's doable. And then the real thing is to pay attention. I've had the great fortune to pay attention with folks, people and animals, in very dramatic places in their life. So I've worked with people when they're dying, when they're in great pain and great trouble. So I think just having the luxury of being exposed to that, you get to see a lot of energy at work.
Right.
But there's a way that you can access this really simply. I always suggest folks go spend time with children and puppies and kittens and the places in the world where there is life itself. Mm. And for some people, that's in their garden. I don't have a particularly green thumb, but gardener friends I know have the same experience I do when I'm with, puppies. When you see life itself, when you're exposed to that, and if you pay attention, you'll actually get information directly from the source. Hmm. Neat, huh?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Once we start to pay attention, once we start to slow down, once we start to use all these tips that you're giving us, how can we then use this to clear up unwanted situations in our lives or with our family members? All of that stuff. How can we use it?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Great. So much of the work that I do is designed to make that really easy for folks who either don't have the time or don't know what to do next, or don't want to go off and meditate in a cave for donkey's ears on end. But let's do something. I want to teach people something they can literally grab hold of and use right now. That's the perfect answer to that question. And it's really fun. It's a technique I developed called pulling taffy.
Okay.
Now, what I'd like everyone to do is think of, we're gonna practice on something that isn't too personal, just so we know the mechanics of it. Then we'll do something a little more personal. So I'd like you to pick a place in your life that's a physical space that feels a little either uncomfortable or creepy or a place you don't like to be. So the kinds of things I'm thinking of is a cluttered closet that always bothers you, or that corner of the basement that for some reason you just don't like, or sitting at a particular place around the dining room table that just never felt comfortable. Some place that doesn't feel right is really what we're looking for. So once you've picked one of those, you're going to need both hands for this, by the way. You're going to take your hands and pretend there's a big mound of taffy between them. Taffy? Wow. Or if you want to do this with an Oriental flavor, you can imagine they're a big lump of rice noodles, but I like taffy. So I'd like you to stick your fingers of both hands into the taffy and pull and pull and pull until it stretches and then snaps. When it snaps, you just push it back together and pull and pull and pull with both hands in both directions away from each other till it snaps, and squish it back together. Now, if you're doing this in public, people will make a large perimeter around you and stay away from you, but that's okay. Pull and pull and pull until it snaps, and then smush it back. And while you're doing this, think about the place in the world in your life that feels uncomfortable. Stretch it, and stretch it in every direction, up and down, all the diagonals. You just pull it till it snaps, and then you smush it back together. So let's check. Check for yourself in your own direct experience. When you think about that place now, do you notice that there's something particularly different about it? So, Kristen, what'd you notice?
Yeah, it's later. Again, almost that same sensation I was talking about before, where I almost can't attach myself to that negative feeling.
Right. Good. And everyone, I can guarantee you, on the call will have some version of that. We also pick something that's not very personal. But I have great news. This is just as easy with something really personal and complicated. So guess what we're doing next?
Something personal and complicated.
Yay! We're going to dive into the deep end of the pool, yes. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to pick something. The best way to describe this is I want you to pick a sticky situation, because we're dealing with taffy anyway. We might as well go through with the metaphor. So sticky situations are fights with your boss, or misunderstandings between loved ones, or, God forbid, your relationship with your teenager. I don't know how we survive them. Or time at work that is just things at work are not working, or your frustration over money. Whatever it is, pick one thing. Let's do exactly what we just did. Imagine there's taffy between your hands. Stretch it out until it snaps. Smush it back, and then go for every conceivable diagonal, but really do it with your hands. This technique, by the way, doesn't work if you do it mentally. Sorry, kids. No, you can't just do it mentally. You actually have to physically pull it until it snaps, and then smush it and pull it again in every direction. And I'm doing this while we're talking as well. I'm actually helping out, but you don't need my help for this. This is one of the things I'm happy to teach, because you don't need me for it. You can do this crazy thing for the rest of your life on any problem that comes up, and it will be helpful. So while we're talking, we've stretched and it's snapped. We smush it back together, and then check and see. And Kristen, would you tell us what you noticed? Again, no, we don't want your content.
Yeah, again, it's a lighter feeling. I actually almost started to laugh at one point.
Awesome. The trick to this, if there is, aside from having fun, because that really is the trick, is to do it until you stop caring so much. Part of what pulling taffy does is it literally, figuratively, metaphorically, and energetically pulls the entanglements out of a problem. When that happens, your problem starts to wobble and fall. And that's a good thing.
Wow, I love that.
And it's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
to have a good time.
and it's easy to sort of visualize it and see exactly what's going on. So I love that you've given us that to be able to use. I think that's just amazing. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of emotional issues and things like that. You fixed your own back with this, and this is I know going to be very interesting for people as well, because this actually works with physical ailments too. Is that right?
It sure does.
How is that possible?
You want to know a secret?
Yeah, I want to know a secret.
Here's my big secret. 99 44/100% of the time, that chronic physical pain issue, and this is where I'm quickly going to insert my disclaimer, because I don't have anything against great, competent healthcare providers. I love them. They're a godsend. What they do is a godsend. It's the truth.
True.
And 99 44/100% of the time, if something has persisted so that it's classified technically as chronic, meaning over 6 months in duration, the fire or the heat or the motivator or the perpetuator for that problem, in my experience, is almost always emotional.
Wow.
People will say, "No, it's my ankle, it's my knee, it's my nose, it's my..." Well, yes, that's where it's appearing, and there are a whole series of easy questions that you can start to ask yourself to see if your pain starts to wobble or change or move, because you can start touching into the emotions that you're trying not to feel. Now, I can say that with some authority, not only because I fixed my own back, but culturally I'm English, and we have an entire culture of not feeling feelings.
Yeah.
We're experts at that. We're great sublimators and stuffers of our feelings. So when you first start to even scratch the surface of having a feeling or letting up a feeling that you may have been denying for some period of time, one of the very common experiences is that pain starts to alleviate or move or shift, and it certainly gets better.
Wow.
And your doctor's still on your healing team, so great.
Right. You're not saying you don't need the doctor. I have full respect for fantastic doctors as well. Okay. Is there any chance that, because I'd love to do one more sort of, clearing experience, is it possible to do it where it's focused on physical pain, or does that not matter? Is that just the gunk, and so I'm getting focused on what it is, and that doesn't matter?
Well, the answer is yes to both questions, but if we can focus it a little more exactly, we'll get sort of more laser-focused results.
Oh, okay, cool.
So one of the pieces about physical pain, especially chronic physical pain, I'm not talking about just, bumping yourself 10 minutes ago. We're talking about something that's been around and around and it's driving you crazy. There is frequently what's called a trauma field that is active. So here's the way that goes. And it's easiest to understand with the classic story of the car accident, because I know many folks on the call will have had car accidents at some point in their life. We have a car accident a year ago, 10 years ago, 25 years ago, and we suffer through that event. We have some bangs and scrapes, some problems, and then many, many moons later, at this point in our life, let's say we are... It could be anything. You could be looking to get a promotion. You could be in the midst of a divorce or starting a new relationship or what have you. There's some big thing going on in your life. And then physical pain shows up seemingly out of nowhere, and nothing we do will reduce it. It's not necessarily the car accident, but in my experience, it's frequently a very old, what's called a trauma field, where part of us has locked up and needs to be let go. And as soon as that happens, there's a very big reduction in physical pain. And let me give you some other examples. Car accident is a very physical thing. or it looks like a very physical thing anyway. Some of the even more effective trauma field creators are messages we got from authority figures when we were either vulnerable or as children or in a transition state. So when someone points their finger in our face when we're a young person and says, "You're so blah," whatever it is, that goes into a special file in our mind and our energy system that says, "Oh, this is a problem." So that's one way a trauma field can get set up, and it's a very common one. Some of the forceful criticism we may have received earlier on, and I mean, it can be from a boss, it can be from a parent, it could be from even a total stranger. That stays very active in our system. That, strangely enough, can be the source of chronic pain even years later. And I know it sounds like they're two very different things, but here's a way to find that out for yourself. Here's a really good question you can ask yourself. Let's say you have some sort of joint problem, knees, shoulders, elbows, hips, what have you. You could ask yourself, if this is a chronic issue for you, what is it that this part of my body is trying to help me not feel? If you ask that in all sincerity and you listen for the answer, you will frequently be freaked out by what you hear.
Yeah.
Not only, well, if you didn't know your body can talk to you, then it'll freak you out twice. But there are messages that frequently get locked in our system at different places that our body is trying to help us hear or acknowledge or know about. So it's no secret for folks that know me that I suffered terribly from adult onset asthma for 10 years. I'm happy to report it is now completely healed.
Wow.
But in the course of that, in the midst of the suffering, I figured I'd better make a good opportunity of the learning of it. I learned all kinds of messages that surprised me that were locked in my chest and my lungs and my heart that I had no awareness of without the shortness of breath to keep pointing me in that direction. So if you ask your body and you're willing to hear the answer, you will frequently find out they got some stuff to tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of trippy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that question, what is this part of my body trying to help me not feel? If you get an answer to that, for example, let me give you a great example that's pretty sneaky and pervasive in a lot of conditions. If your body says, well, it's trying to help you not feel the grief you feel or the sadness that you feel, guess what would be worth practicing? The answer is feeling that grief and sadness.
Right.
Because it's a pretty simple trade or a pretty simple proposition. Don't feel the grief and sadness, have the horrifying pain. Be willing to start to feel the grief and sadness, have that pain lessen, relax, and eventually go. Wow. And sometimes quickly go. You never know.
Yeah.
If we're ever hurt by a person or hurt with people in a series of events, that physical trauma can lock up in our musculature. So it becomes a very physical experience. That's, hence the car accident or any kind of accident for that matter. One of the useful things you can do is look back at any bumps or scrapes or accidents that you've been in and ask the part of your body that hurts, who is it specifically that your body is trying to get you to forgive? That's a juicy one.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for everybody. Yeah, that is a big one. So now that I've totally stirred the pot with everybody in the call, especially about forgiveness, I'd like to do a little 30-second piece to help you let go of the charge of that guilt.
Okay.
All right? So think about someone related to an accident, or if you don't have any accidents, hallelujah, someone that you know you need to forgive, but you haven't fully forgiven yet. And a few people pop to mind. Just pick one. And if you'll just put your attention gently on their face, I'm going to go silent for about 30 seconds, and we'll just do some energy work just so that that'll be easier for you. I'll let you know when we're done. Hold on. Okay, you can bring your attention back. And Kristen, how was that for you?
Amazing. I felt an opening up of love and compassion that I hadn't felt for that person.
Great. That's entirely the goal. So big hint to everybody. We all have more people we need to forgive than we're even probably willing to fess up. So you can come back to the replay. You can figure out what time this is on the replay and mark it and come back. It's a very short process, but you can bring one person to mind after another and think about it. In 10 minutes, you could forgive a whole bunch of people, which would serve them and, most importantly, serve you beyond measure.
Wow. I love that. Okay, so with everything that we've talked about, and what I love about what you're doing is it's not just addressing one area of life. It's
right,
because that's so much of, what I'm excited about is, look, we're looking to manifest a whole amazing, brilliant life. So not just in one area. So I love that about what you're doing. I'm curious, about what's possible. So people that are working with what you're doing here, can you share with us one or two stories where people experienced pretty significant turnarounds, just for us to get an idea?
Oh, I'd love to. I mean, I have lots of favorites. What a problem to have to pick from a list of good things. I just very, very recently, in the last few days, I had worked with a doctor in the U.S. who had some stamina issues and had some stuff going on in a relationship that was very stressful, and I just got a testimony back from him. And I love working with doctors because they're it always surprises me that doctors call me to begin with, so that's very nice. But they are, in my estimation, the hardest skeptics, and I just think it's wonderful. He had a total turnaround in his energy and stamina. The relationship stressor got completely resolved, and we're going to be working again. So he got such good improvements so quickly that we're now on to the next list of things that are up. So that's a favorite. It's nice to hear. One of my all-time favorite ones. I'm actually quite frightened of horses. I love horses, but at a distance. I also don't speak horse. Like, there are people that have the whole horse world of vocabulary. They have to translate it back into English for me. I speak dog. So I work with a lot of people with horses, and I work remotely with them, actually all over the world. I was working with a woman who had a horse that had basically suddenly turned. He had thrown her and had gone from being wonderful to suddenly something was very wrong. And it was only because of scheduling challenges that I couldn't connect with her. Our schedules were crazy busy, and we were playing phone tag trying to connect. So what I did in the interim was I had her listen to some of my recorded work just as an interim step on behalf of the horse. And yes, you can do that crazy-sounding thing with my work, because why not? And my thinking was that would at least give us a few days so we could get our schedules together so that I could formally do session work on him. The very next day, as things would have it, she called me and said, "Oh, good. Well, that's fixed. Thanks." I said, after I picked my jaw up off the floor, I said, "And so tell me about that." And she said, "Well, he's completely turned around. Whatever it was, again, we didn't get the luxury of poking into what the problem was, which was great. Whatever it was is completely turned around. He's like a changed animal. Things are groovy." Awesome. So that's one of my favorite stories. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
That's so
nice,
cool.
Sort of like playing pinball, the ball hits here, gets the horse fixes. It's good.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, and I also love your first one that, as you said, doctors are the biggest skeptics. So the fact that you have doctors that come to you repeatedly, I mean, that says a lot. And that, and again, I will say this again, what I love about what you're doing is, it's fast. That is definitely a bonus. But it also, I could feel, as we were going through the work during the call, I could feel myself lightening. I mean, and I could feel a sense of like a light joy coming into me, and that's an amazing thing. And I just love the fact that it does, as I said before, hit every area of your life. It's not like this is specific to this one thing. And if you're healing your energy systems, I can't imagine that wouldn't affect every area of your life. So that's really cool. And Rudy, you're awesome. I asked you to put together a special offer for everybody. You did. It's really, really exciting. So what I want to do, Rudy, is give everyone the link and then have you talk them through it. Does that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so everybody go to www.manifesteverythingnow.com/mend, spelled MEND. Again, go to manifesteverythingnow.com/mend, spelled MEND. And go ahead, Rudy, let us know. It's an amazing thing that you've put together. So go ahead and let us know what we'll find there.
Well, thanks. The packages consists